Ang susunod na programa ay rated PG. Patnubay at gabay ng magulang ay kailangan sa mga batang manonood.
Sama-sama tayong matakam at matuto. Pinoy Flavors with Chef Jayson, where flavor meets heritage.
Yummy! Ayan, magandang hapon po mga ka-flavors. Nandito na naman po tayo sa ating show kung saan pag-uusapan natin ang kulturang Pinoy, pagkain Pinoy, and everything that connects food to our heritage. Tonight, isa na naman pong special guest ang kasama natin. Every time na lang na nag-episode tayo, Julian, puro special guest mga binibigay mo. Ang kasama po natin tonight mga kaibigan ay isang eksperto sa larangan ng turismo at aktibong bahagi ng mga inisyatiba upang mapalakas ang pag-unlad ng tourism industry sa Pilipinas. Yun. First time din yata natin dito sa show na magkaroon ng guest coming from our esteemed departments, government agencies also. So tonight, kasama po natin mga ka-flavors si Dr. Paulo Tugbang. Siya po ay ang Product Development of the Department of Tourism at siya rin po ang in charge, ang bossing naming lahat para sa food tourism dito sa sa Pilipinas na. We're very happy to have our friend Doc Pao. Welcome to Pinoy Flavors. Nasaan ka na?
Andito ako. Magandang gabi, Chef Jayson. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita sa Department of Tourism na mag-participate dito sa iyong kagalang-galang na show. Medyo nalula ako dun sa introduction. But we're very excited to talk about food and food tourism and how it is currently being championed ng ating department. And maraming salamat at sa mga lahat ng mga ka-flavors nating nakikinig ngayon. Hello sa inyo dyan, guys.
First question daw.
First question na kaagad. Okay.
Who are you wearing tonight?
I am wearing someone from Kamuning.
Kamuning?
Oo, pinagawa lang natin yung base sa Kamuning. Tayo ay very, frugal tayo sa mga ganitong bagay. Tapos,
Matipid ba sa?
oo, mura lang siya. Tapos, ang ginagawa namin is because we're required to wear Filipiniana every day. We try to make it more accessible and more modern. Kasi, of course, ang init ng pinyahusin na barong, di ba? So, parang ginagawa namin is we try to make it a point na the Filipiniana does not only center on how it is expressed in the Tagalog region.
Yeah.
So what we do is, like for example, this one. I had the base made in Kamuning and then sinend out namin siya to Lake Cebu. So there are dream weavers in Lake Cebu, diba? And then the pachera part, sila yung nag-weave. We had to wait like for 3-4 months.
Wow.
Kasi dinidream pa nila
Yeah.
So kailan mo namin matatanggap yung barong? Hindi pa po kasi napapanaginipan ko anong design. So, ayun. Pero it's very economical. It also highlights a lot of our cultural diversity kasi yung barong is interpreted now as not just solely within the Tagalog sphere, but also outside of it. We see interpretations of the barong from the Mindanao regions, from the Visayas region. So, we appreciate that. And it's always a conversation piece.
Yeah, and I'd say na yung barong pieces natin ngayon parang reflective of the more current generation. Parang merong boom siya ngayon of the barong being cool, casual, but at the same time.
I feel like there's always this conversation that barong has always been a kish.
Yeah.
Parang object, no? Parang hindi siya natin palaging champion nung mga bata tayo. Parang pag barong, pag linggo ng wika, graduation, di ba? But ngayon, barong and Filipiniana in general, no, especially our local weaves, are being embraced by this new generation of Filipinos. Parang there's always this sense of ownership doon sa mga weaves natin na hindi lang siya for special occasions, hindi siya pang display, but it's actually being embodied kasi, I don't know, I think it's this generation that's really very conscious about how we project ourselves as Filipinos.
Where do you think is this generation's distinction with regard to our culture, our textiles coming from?
I think it's because siguro of the very long-standing diminution of the culture.
Diminution.
Grabe talaga yung word na ginamit ko.
Sir, ano ba yung diminution?
Hindi, kasi yun, parang nare-relegate dati kasi yung culture as something that's very unreachable.
Okay.
Para siyang palaging tinotokenize. I feel like nung mga bata pa tayo, especially during as millennials, diba? When we were kids, culture is always something na hindi natin ina-aspire to learn. Parang ang na-inculcate sa atin is yung very westernized. Maganda yung mga damit galing sa US or sa Hong Kong, Canada, blah, blah, blah. But right now, parang I think this generation has had enough of it eh. Parang we're retaking
So kasama ka na.
Oo,
In this
kasama tayo, of
generation.
course. We're taking ownership of it. Na parang culture is not something that we should just put on the pedestal, but it's something that we should practice every day.
Okay.
And by practicing our culture, it means that, wear your own culture. So, barong is not just relegated as a national costume. It's actually relegated as something that you can wear on a daily basis. And you can actually experiment. Kasi of course, hindi na rin siya gine-gatekeep eh.
Yes.
Like you can see people wearing inabel, you can see people wearing inaul as well. So these fabrics in the past are just used as costumes.
Yeah.
But right now, it's very ubiquitous.
Yeah. Ubiquitous!
Ubiquitous!
Oh my gosh. Daming words.
Ubiquitous?
Hindi, I mean, naalala ko nung kawani pa rin ako ng gobyerno.
Oo.
Tapos syempre, nakabarong-barong kita. Yung Onesimus na pagdating mo ng 5 p.m., lukot na yun.
Lukot na siya. Oo.
Pinalaki ako ng mga ganong damit eh. So ngayon na nakikita ko, especially you kapag
Oo.
nasa Instagram stories mo, parang masarap maging empleyado ng gobyerno ngayon.
Tapos ang ganda na din ng parang zeitgeist ngayon ng mga young designers. Especially the ones that have embraced yung pag-develop ng I call it Pinoy couture. Na parang hindi lang siya nag-gatekeep for those who can afford. Meron na talaga tayong, kahit na sa Divisoria or sa TikTok shop, na makakabili ka na ng mga designer barongs. Na parang the designs are really giving Filipino culture. Na parang hindi lang siya dapat na borda ng lokban.
Okay.
Pwede siyang borda ng identity mo kung sino ka as a person wearing it.
Okay.
May mga aso, may mga borda ng aso, mga bulaklak, 'di ba? Hindi lang siya yung parang kailangan
Deeply
dapat
cultural.
deeply
na parang
cultural. It's
super
also,
traditional, di pwede
exactly.
mabago.
It's also a form of expression na ngayon na parang what you embroider in your barong also manifests who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
So ang ganda lang.
Ganda! Ayan.
Oo.
Para po sa mga ka-flavors natin, si Doc Pao po ay isang totoong doktor.
Yes.
Ano po, hindi PhD.
Oo.
As in medical doctor po siya. Pero nasa Department of Tourism po siya. So I just wanted to ask, syempre, your role is different from kung ano yung pinag-aralan mo in med school. Pero, batawag dito, in your food journey, anong klaseng eater ba si Doc Paolo Tugbang? Growing up, anong klaseng pagkain yung mga nagpapasaya sa'yo for you to be happy in this industry?
So, I grew up in a very, probinsya household. Kasi I grew up in Iloilo.
Okay.
So, as you know...
Probinsya as in bahay ko ba? Probinsya mansion?
Probinsya... probinsya city boy. Pero I grew up hindi sa Imperial Manila or in any imperial city in the Philippines like Cebu or Davao. I actually grew up in Iloilo. And our food, as you know, ako proud ako sa Ilonggo cuisine. It's
Ako din.
currently getting a lot of attention because within the flavor scale, hindi kasi siya polarizing. Nasa gitna siya. The flavors are very tame but also very specific to the region. So I grew up with a lot of Ilonggo food at home. And because of our proximity also to the sea, I appreciated na we had access to great seafood. So I really loved seafood growing up. Hindi ako masyadong ma-meat na person. I love seafood, vegetables also. And hindi yung palate ko dati talaga is very Ilonggo palate Until I...
Ano ba Ilonggo palate? Sugar?
Hindi nga. Actually, very... If you listen to experts like sina Tibong, when they discuss Ilonggo food, the spectrum of Ilonggo food is really bland to savory.
Okay.
Hindi siya super strong like maanghang like the Bicolanos, diba? Or hindi din siya super fatty. It's in between.
Like, joke lang. Na-atake.
Wala naman. It's in between. Kasi,
Okay.
'di ba? heavily seafood influenced. A lot of the flavors also are very tame.
Yeah.
So, yun, very tame lang yung flavor profile ko as growing up. Pero nag-expand siya when I started living in Manila for high school and college. And
Na-shock ka ba with the food culture here? Hinanap mo ba yung...
Hindi naman kasi studying in UP, parang very liberal yung food culture in UP high school. Tapos when I went to college also, and eventually graduate school, mas na-refine yung palette ko in a sense kasi Ateneo. Yun. So parang nakakaangat-angat tayo. So pwede na tayong let's go friends, let's go to the podium or to Eastwood City. Hindi. So ayun, mas na-expand yung portfolio ng flavors na alam ko. And then eventually working for DOT, parang I was thrust to this position na hindi talaga ako food expert in the beginning. Tapos nag-grow into the job. So really knowing how to curate food and learning about the different flavors, not just within our country, but the influences that derived our flavors right now really opened my eyes to the richness of our culinary offerings in the country talaga.
Okay. So, ba tawag dito? Pasok tayo sa food tourism. I mean, we have a general national tourism strategy.
Yes.
But how important is food now in that overall tourism strategy?
Yung food kasi, akala natin kasi it's just a passive player in the past, di ba? Parang food is something that you get when you travel.
Yeah.
Parang hindi siya at the forefront of travel. You don't, I mean, yung dating mindset of traveling is like the destination. The destination, and then the others are just accoutrements, di ba? Or are just adjunct to the destination. Basically, ano bang ino-offer ng destination? Then you ask for accommodation, food, transportation, etc. But right now, we see kasi a trend, especially after the pandemic, we see trends that travelers actually prioritize experiential tourism. Meaning, the YOLO attitude has been carried over after the pandemic because, of course, so many people have like experienced a pandemic, they experience a lot of loss. So people now...
I mean, nag-restaurant nga ako dahil sa pandemic,
diba? Agree. And then that story is very heartwarming talaga when you told me about the history of your restaurant and your grandmother. But again, going back to that narrative, many people already shifted their mindset. Now, travel is not just about the destination; it's about the experiences. And we see that food is actually an experience. No, hindi lang siya passive component of the travel. It's actually an experiential component. So therefore, with seeing that trend happening right now in the overall tourism space, minabuti ng department na pag-aralan ulit yung strategy and mag-pivot tayo towards building more experiential tourism activities in the country. Not only for the tourists coming from our inbound international destinations, but also for local tourists. No? Kasi tayo din naman na Filipinos, we're actually one of the biggest consumers of our own tourism. Within the Southeast Asia and the general Asian space, tayo talaga yung number one sa domestic tourism. Kasi nga, archipelagic tayo. Most Filipinos would rather travel within the Philippines than go out of the country, well, based sa studies, no? Kasi ang dami pa natin hindi na-experience. I mean, how many people can raise their hand probably or reflect on themselves at home and say na, na-visit ko na majority of the destinations in the Philippines.
Actually, yung second question ko with this topic is, now that it's part of the overall tourism strategy, Filipino cuisines, parang ang hirap niya to lump into a national strategy, di ba? Sobrang highly regionalistic. Even our experiences are highly regionalistic also. Parang does that affect yung path natin towards a national culinary identity? Or papunta tayo in highlighting the variations of regions and experiences per region?
I guess it's a very good question, no? Naalala nyo dati nung pandemic, hindi ko alam kung magiging controversial itong topic na to. Pero there was parang topic regarding parang standardizing Filipino food.
Was this the adobo legislation?
Yes,
Oh my God, yes.
And then all of a sudden, parang nawala din siya dahil people were so against it.
Yeah.
Kami sa team, shoutout sa team ko sa food. Si Sarah is here with me, and of course si Miss Lily and si Ivy, Cleo, and everyone else. We always work within that parang headspace na Filipino food is alive. Hindi siya static, hindi siya pwedeng ma-standardize. If there's something that you can probably standardize, it's not the recipe. It's the ingredients of a specific dish. Kasi, kailangan nating maalala na the basic example is adobo. Your lola's adobo is different from my lola's adobo, but it doesn't make your lola's adobo better than my lola's adobo, di ba? We use within that space the same ingredients. It's just a different technique of cooking. Kasi iba-iba naman yung palette ng bawat bahay. I feel like that's where Filipino food stands out. Hindi tayo pwedeng ma-standardize. And that's the beauty of it because the experience in every household will be different. Ganun siya eh. Parang ako personally, the argument here is really that food is for Filipinos, food is a very household thing.
Yes.
Iba siya sa bawat bahay. Much more so na when we look at it in a regional perspective, iba-iba din yung flavors na nakikita natin per region. Adobo lang in itself, may adobong puti, may adobong soy sauce, 'di ba? May adobong gata, may adobong dilaw, may adobong dry na adobo, may sauce na adobo. So, adobo in itself as pegged as a kunyari national dish. Iba-iba din siya ang treatment per region, much more so sa bahay, 'di ba? So, I think the strength is the challenge is actually looking for that strength na parang unity in diversity in terms of our food and culinary.
Ang hirap pa naman ng mga unity
diba?
things ngayon.
Diba? Parang oo nga, parang 'di ba?
Parang kailangan po
iba yung
mga
tula itong
flavors.
Correct. Oo. Peace. Peace tayo dyan. Pero I mean, yun yung perspective na kailangan nating i-work around eh. Na hindi dapat natin sinasabing meron tayong singular national culinary identity. Kasi hindi tayo Thailand, hindi tayo isang bansa connected by land. We are an archipelagic nation and people have always evolved, especially Filipinos, have always evolved based on what available ingredients they have. Oo, adobo is common. Fish soup is common in the Philippines. But it depends on the fish, 'di ba? Pwede siyang kinilaw or ceviche type. Pwede siyang sinabawan dahil river fish yung hinahanda nila. Hindi naman siya pwedeng hiwain into small cubes and dried with vinegar. So, doon nakikita yung culinary identity ng Filipino, which is diverse. I feel like it's also a strength dahil when we bring in international bodies that actually look into our food, nakikita nila na Filipino food is not a one-note cuisine. We have variety of cuisines in the country. Ito nga yung sinasabi natin kanina, we were talking about this earlier before the show started. Now, we have a chef na friend natin who's highlighting 14 heirloom rice in his new menu. So parang,
grabe yun.
'di ba? Akala natin isa lang yung bigas is just the white rice, 'di ba? Marami lang siyang klase, sinandoming, whatever, blah blah blah. Pero hindi eh, may heirloom rice tayo in the country. And it's not just one, it's multiple heirloom varieties of heirloom rice. And the way you prepare these kinds of grains, different siya bawat isa. Pwede mo siyang gawing sopas, pwede mo siyang gawing as your main carbohydrate in your food. So, I feel like the strategy right now is really highlighting yun nga, yung diverse culinary offerings natin. Hindi siya one note.
Okay, so yung highlighting diversity, but at the same time, we're hosting the ASEAN this year, di ba?
Yes, definitely.
Ang theme natin is connected to the ASEAN flavor. So, I've been thinking parang, with our cuisine, how close are we really with our Southeast Asian neighbors? Kasi parang agree ako towards the South, Zamboanga, where we have our sambals and dami goreng. Medyo malapit tayo with the Indonesia, Malaysian flavor profiles. Pero Manila, other provinces, how Asian is our cuisine?
Yun yung challenge actually, is hanapan siya ng connection within ASEAN. Kasi nga, very heavily influenced ng Spanish cuisine yung pagkain natin. Especially the ones that we know na pagkain natin. the ones that are very commonly heralded as Filipino food. So, paano natin siya ngayon bibigyan ng parang Asian connection, 'di ba? So, hindi siya malayo. Madami tayong pagkain na hindi lang na-highlight na connected to Asia, no? Especially East Asia. Madami tayong mga inadapt na pagkain from them. East Asia, South Asia. Actually, madami tayong techniques na na-adapt and have embodied it, and we've actually parang embraced it as our own.
May nabasa akong paper na parang sa pag menu development, di ba, mayroong mga Nordic elements, we follow the fine dining, white aprons and everything. Ang sabi, parang maraming Asian kitchens, specifically Philippine kitchen, na yung menu logic niya is different from the white aprons.
Yes.
Kasi yung Filipino kitchen, pwede ka magluto for the entire community, so feast. Pero pwede ka rin mag-specialize ng dishes, yun nga kapag meron ka may sakit ng mga anak. So, kapag then merong gusto ng quick meal, pwede mo rin siyang ipagluto. So, the Filipino kitchen is built daw to specialize the experience.
Yes,
Parang,
I agree.
Halimbawa, yung Indian cuisine, it's characterized by its magical use of spices. Pero Filipino cuisine daw, it's not a flavor that you can grasp.
Yes.
It's a feeling. It's that warmth in knowing that somebody made room especially for you and your eating habits. Parang
Totoo yan.
ganun daw yung...
Kaya nga, again, going back to that conversation na very household specific yung food natin. Kasi iba-iba yung approach natin in cooking our food eh. It depends on the family that is being fed.
Yeah.
So, we translate that now to a more commercial,
Yes.
na iba-iba yung approach natin sa pag-commercialize ng Filipino food.
Yes. Yun actually yung sociological part of it. Parang halimbawa, Filipino food. And this is a very ripe moment for Filipino food. Our Filipino chefs are getting the recognition from the world. Yung question ay, how do we translate that recognition from our esteemed chefs from to the humble
Filipino
cook? Kasi di ba parang ang clearest case study for me is J5. Meron siyang star, pero street cook logic yung pinanggalingan niya. She calls herself a chef, pero yung pinanggalingan ng menu niya is the everyday cuisine made more special for local community hanggang naging foreign community na. Sa Pilipinas ba, kakayanin natin yun? Yung from household to, let's say, to star.
I think we need to also look at this in the perspective of how Filipinos commercialize their food.
Okay.
Makikita natin na yung mga karinderya natin, hindi kasi tulad ng mga karinderya sa Vietnam, Thailand, or any other restaurants or hole-in-the-walls across Asia na nagsispecialize sa isang pagkain. When we look at our karinderyas,
Lahat nandun.
they offer everything.
Yes.
Because we Filipinos, as a culture, we love variety.
Yes.
Hindi kasi tayo one note. So ngayon, dito nagkakaroon ng parang discrepancy between what is expected from us internationally versus what is expected from us culturally in the local scene. Kasi when you look at restaurants like J5, they only specialize in one thing, omelette. Diba?
Yeah,
Crab, omelette. That's it. Yeah. That's what they cook the whole
Dry
day.
tom yum.
Diba? But if you go to like Morning Sun, they cook a lot
Ang
of
daming
dishes.
techniques nun. Meron kang deep frying, ihaw,
stew, ceviche, or kinilaw. So, makikita natin na as Filipinos, as consumers of our own food, hindi tayo nagsisettle in one dish. There's no specific Filipino restaurant in this country, I feel like na nagserve lang ng isang pagkain. Even if you go to an Ilocos empanada store, may bagnet ka doon, may pansit ka doon, may empanada ka doon. It's a parang combination of all Ilocano dishes. They highlight one dish in their title, but they cook a lot. So, nature kasi natin na pag kumain tayo, madaming ulam.
Yes.
Hindi kasi tayo yung parang, eto na yung rice and then ulam. That's very schoolboy approach kasi like nagtitipid ka, okay, isa ulam, isa kanin. But as a culture, we savor on the consuming identity is really anchored on variety.
Okay.
So ngayon, if you want to translate international recognition towards these kinds of like parang, there's a staple highlight dish na nagkakaroon ngayon ng international recognition. We need to be able to pivot our own culture towards a singular dish approach.
Okay.
But that's very difficult.
Very difficult.
So what we're trying to do right now is highlight dishes that can withstand pop culture.
Okay.
Diba? And I know that you know that right now, the biggest, and you've written about this, the biggest, tawag mo dun, social media craze is the empanada.
The empanada.
Because it can withstand popular culture's rigors, diba?
And I'd say nga na parang of the many Filipino food na dumaan with global gate, ito rin yung, syempre medyo nairita ako with some of the ways the dish is being cooked. Pero sige, nasa ibang bansa tayo, baka wala tayo access.
May iba nga binibake nila. Medyo nasistress na ako doon pag nakikita ko. But also, sige, fine. Okay lang. At least it's getting the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, pero parang batawag dito, ang nagugustuhan ko with the conversations about it, meron talaga siyang specific referencing of the region where the empanada came from. So hindi siya parang na hodgepodge into a generic, this empanada, is a Filipino dish.
And now also, there is a big, ito din, I think the argument is also, mga taga-DA, hindi, DTI. Hindi kasi there is a global demand for ube.
Okay, yes.
And ube is a flavor that's really getting a lot of recognition globally.
And we get, I think, mga $3 million yung...
Yes, but we don't have supply. There's a parang disconnect between the demand for ube globally and the supply that the Philippines can provide.
So, saan nanggagaling mo supply ng...
Hindi, I mean,
sa
atin pa din. Pero I mean, if you just look at it in an economies of scale perspective talaga, the ube, we cannot promote ube like what Japan does with matcha na parang as ng demand ng matcha na it's ubiquitous right now. You can see it everywhere. Nasa mall na siya, nasa Air One na siya ngayon in the States. I mean, you know, people are making matcha at home, ceremonial.
Sana magmamatcha kami.
Diba? People are now consciously looking for matcha. If we want that kind of gastro-diplomacy, we need to be able to also keep up with the demand. Wala tayong, I mean, if you look at our economies of scale right now, how many farmers do farm ube? Diba? So I mean, how do we create that opportunity? Kami kasi sa DOT, hindi namin mandate yun. Mandate namin mag-promote. Kaya namin mag-promote.
Pero kung ikaw ay yung may power, how will you mandate it? Joke lang.
Yan, hindi ako agriculturist. So, hindi ko alam. Pero I mean, if we really want to placemate in terms of these kinds of global recognitions and, you know, mga food and ingredients.
Would you say, ba tawag dito, dapat meron tayong conscious shift towards prioritizing, let's say, itong mga high-value crops?
I think we have to. We have to. Kasi ito yung mga crops na nagdadala sa atin not only tourism but also a lot of economic soft power as well. Okay.
Paano yung economic soft power in terms of food? I mean, gusto ko siyang maintindihan.
So, gastro-diplomacy is actually a way of promoting our cuisine by infiltrating, the word is infiltrating the zeitgeist of the entire of the world, diba? In terms of developing their palates for different types of food. And we know that that's how the Japanese cuisine started. It's now very commonplace na siya sa lahat ng countries.
I mean, Gen Z ngayon ang pinaka hanggang Gen Alpha, di ba? Sushi yung top ng feed.
Correct. Nila. But if you look at the history of the Japanese cuisine, it started when the California roll was developed in LA because they could not source any Japanese. So they developed the LA-based sushi, and then it actually spread in Japan, and then they actually started also rolling out different a different food also, as like ramen and diba. So how do we do that? We do that by actually our immigrants, our Filipinos overseas are actually our main ambassadors for food, and we highly depend on them to spread the word about Filipino cuisine, not only on our Filipino communities globally, but also to the foreigners. They are the first point of impact.
Yeah.
First introduction to Filipino food.
I think that's also why yung surge for the Ilocano empanada medyo nasusustain siya. Kasi bahay talaga yung nagluluto.
Oo, and Ilocano talaga yung nagluluto. So
Karamihan.
there is... Okay.
Okay lang po.
Pero so there is like this conscious effort
Yes.
talaga because you are the ambassador to your own cuisine, di ba?
Yeah.
But of course, hindi natin siya pwedeng sabihin dito na tayo mag-expand. Kasi for example, yung Thailand model, they do what isa sa mga gastro-diplomacies nila is like really certifying different restaurants internationally to say that they cook Thai food.
Yeah. Pero national yung nagse-certify, di ba?
Yes.
So,
National body siya na nagse-certify coming from Thailand. And nagbubuo sila ng resources doon. Like their tourism authority of Thailand, nagbubuo sila siya ng resource doon para mapaigting yung gastro-diplomacy. I hope as well as a member of government na sana magkaroon din tayo ng ganung klaseng gastro-diplomacy na parang kasi right now I understand the importance of doing fusion food eh. Kasi of course yung palate kailangan ma-ease in natin yung palate ng mga foreigners doon sa Filipino food because we can't just arrest them with our flavors na parang eto talaga siya, it's take it or bust. Parang 'di ba? There are others na parang, because we don't have this kind of produce here, we substitute it with ganyan.
masahin ng konti.
Okay lang yan. But at the end of the day, if we really wanna push for it, kailangan din natin ng ganong klaseng strategy na parang may nag-certify na this is authentic Filipino food. This is something that is cooked by Filipinos. This is something that is rooted in Filipino culture, di ba? But, of course, it will take a lot of resources. Alam naman natin na fiscally tight din yung gobyerno natin. So, hopefully, in the future, magawan ng paraan siya.
At saka, ba tawag dito? Kapag meron kang national certifying body, I think mas malapit nga sa Filipino cooks to make their craft better.
Oo. And it also gives them pride.
Yeah.
Na parang, authentic ako magluto.
Yeah. May narinig ako, I can't remember kung sino yung chef yung nagsabi nito, like a one provincial meeting. Pero sinabi nga yan na parang even with us Filipino cooks, kailangan din magbago yung mindset with how we look at cooking.
Yes.
Kasi halimbawa, pag maraming mga restaurants na paglabas mo ng pagkain, yun na yung end ng transaction. We were able to provide a consumable public food. Pero, batawag dito, yung practice, yung technique, and all of these things, hindi naman siya napag-uusapan kapag ganun lang yung conversation. So sabi niya, parang, sabi nung chef, the way we look at the food that we create, even the cooking process here in the Philippines, parang kung wala tayong makuhang pride for it na tingin natin, parang the bahay is less prestigious in comparison to the stainless kitchen. Talagang magiging second, parang meron tayong second class mindset as Filipino cooks also. Pero yung Filipino cooks, when we look at ingredients, sobrang ang lala ng diversity na kailangan meron ka para to cook good Filipino food talaga.
Totoo yan. And ayun nga, I think parang nasa stifle din tayo dun sa mindset na Filipino food is not as hindi siya ganun ka-importante.
Yeah.
Parang it's commonplace to us. So we don't value.
Yeah. Parang, Pinoy food lang yun,
Oo.
ba't ang mahal? Yan,
Correct.
Yan po ang pag-uusapan natin sa pagbabalik ng Pinoy Flavors with Chef Jayson. Kasama po natin si Doc Pao Tugbang from the Department of Tourism. Magbabalik po tayo mga flavors.
Magandang araw, si Dingdong Dantes po ito. Sakali magkaroon ng landslide sa inyong lugar at kinakailangan yung lumikas, huwag munang babalik agad sa bahay ng walang go signal ng mga otoridad. Intayin ang abiso nila kung ligtas nang bumalik ng inyong bahay. I-report ka agad kung may nawawalang kamag-anak, kaibigan, or kakilala na baka na-trap dahil sa landslide. Kapag nakabalik na sa bahay, i-check ang mga pundasyon nito kung may sira o ligtas pa bang tirhan. I-report sa otoridad ang anumang nasirang cable ng kuryente o naputol na mga linya ng tubig para agad na maaksyonan. Kahit natapos na ang sakuna, kailangan pa rin tayo mag-iingat ha. #panatag ang may alam.
Maging panatag Pilipinas.
For those who want to be repatriated, we will find ways to get you out safely. So right now, safety first for our people, and that is the key thing here. Altogether, that's 1,416 Filipino nationals who have requested repatriation. On this very day, we commemorate the 77th anniversary of our diplomatic ties, which have been enriched and strengthened by moments of solidarity. We agree that we have made significant strides in advancing and deepening our bilateral cooperation towards the attainment of our mutually beneficial goals. Today's forum celebrates the strong bond between our nations, and it underscores our commitment to attracting more investment that will drive inclusive growth in our region.
Kasi dito may harang, sobrang taas ang hingal. Ito siya, mula doon sa baba, limang palapag siya eh.
Siyempre, hassle siya kasi sobrang taas po ng bridge natin. As you can see naman.
Nakakahingal po talaga, lalo pag may dala ka.
That's why the first time that we saw it, nung in-inspection namin, yung MRT, ay sabi ko talagang hindi practical yung kanilang ginawa. Kaya ngayon, ay may pinagbago, naayos natin ito within 4 months. Kaya narito tayo ngayon upang magbigay sa MSMEs at mga kababayang naghahanap ng trabaho ng inspirasyon, suporta at pagkakataon.
Thank you so much po sa mga opportunities na katulad ng ganito kasi hindi na po nahihirapan yung mga job seekers na pumunta ng mga offices, hindi na mamamasahe kasi kayo na po yung lumalapit sa amin para makapag-apply kami.
This is not the end, no? Tuloy-tuloy to. It's going to go. We are determining where the next one will be.
Pangarap mong maging milyonaryo? Sa PCSO Lotto, magkakatotoo. Mas pinasaya, mas pinabongga, mas pinalaki ang mga jackpot prizes. Araw-araw ang bola, kaya more chances of winning sa PCSO Lottery Draws. Lunes hanggang Linggo, tuwing 2 p.m., 5 p.m., and 9 p.m.
Ayan mga ka-flavors, nagbabalik na naman po tayo. Kasama pa rin po natin si Doc Paulo Tugbang from the Department of Tourism na just recently also gifted the Philippine culinary world with our partnership with the Michelin. So meron na pong Michelin recognized restaurants dito sa Pilipinas. Actually, sobrang dami na ngayon and it's really the time for Filipino food to I don't think introduce itself eh. Parang
No, I feel like yun nga sinasabi natin kanina, 'di ba? We like to call it the renaissance of Filipino cuisine.
Yeah.
Kasi we've already introduced ourselves to the world. It's just siguro ito yung time na mas napapaigting natin yung pag-push natin sa food and sa gastronomy ng Pilipinas.
Would you say it's because we're prouder of the food now in comparison to, say, decades ago?
I think yes. Mas nakikita natin na yung Filipino food can stand shoulder to shoulder with the international greats. And I think mas conscious ngayon yung mga chefs natin like you. Hindi, pero totoo. Mas conscious yung mga chefs natin like you guys, especially the new generation chefs. Mas conscious sila na in order for us to place make, we need to be able to push boundaries for Filipino food. Dati kasi parang I think there's a certain kind of fear in like expanding our repertoire in terms of our cuisine. Na parang kaya ba natin makipagbunong braso sa mga malalaking cuisine globally? May certain kind of fear na nag-hold back. Hindi ko siya ma-quantify.
Well, ako, ang specific experience ko rito, I'd say na my cooking really changed after kung magluto in a room full of Caucasian white
Oo.
individuals. So I was in the States for a professional
Parang training.
fellowship.
Yeah.
Tapos merong isang event. As in, parang prior to that cooking, sure naman ako masarap yung pagkain. Pero parang minutes before, puro sila puti. Anong sasabihin nila is the bagoong funky. Baka hindi nila magustuhan. Pero after nun, parang, nagustuhan nyo palang lahat eh. So parang, yung confidence ng isang cook with his food or with their food, nanggagaling talaga yan after going through cooking for people you don't normally cook
for, especially. And especially if you look at the perspective na ang nilulutuan mong population, hindi siya in the same class bracket, for example, or hindi siya in the same regional group. So nakikita mo na parang, if I'm cooking something for the Visayas, iba din yung magiging approach ko in terms of like pushing the Filipino flavor.
But for our listeners and viewers, ano ba yung kahalagahan ng pagdating ng Michelin?
Ayan, nakakala ko mag-open ka na ng mga kontrobersiya natin. Pero handa naman tayong sagutin yan. I think isa sa mga malalaking misconception about us bringing the Michelin Guide to the Philippines is that gusto natin mag-seek ng validation from an international body of critics for food. No? Actually, hindi. We brought the Michelin in the Philippines. It's been a long journey kasi my boss, Yusek Verna, worked to bring the Michelin even before this administration. And then, because of, I think, political will also, na nagkaroon tayo na ng mas definitive commitment from them. The goal is not actually to have them validate our food because I feel like personally, and I think the team also agrees with it, the only people who can validate Filipino foods are Filipinos. What you want to really achieve sa pagdala natin sa Michelin sa Pilipinas ay para mag-benchmark. We benchmark ourselves with, again, the global culinary greats. Kaya ba nating makipag shoulder to shoulder nga with French food, with Japanese food, with Thai food. In Southeast Asia, we are not the last country to bring in the Michelin. No, Thailand, we have Vietnam, there is Malaysia, Singapore. So essentially, we are the 5th country to have brought the Michelin to the Philippines, to Southeast Asia. But it also goes to show na kayang makipaglaban ng Filipino food. Na pag sinabi mong fine dining, pag sinabi mong haute cuisine, 'di ba? Andyan, Filipino food has a place on the table, on the proverbial global table.
Okay. Yung follow-up question ko ay, which strand of Filipino food has a place in that table? Or is there a strand of Filipino food that's highlighted in that table? Because I would say, yung fear naman of people criticizing the presence of the Michelin now ay may mga problems pa with the tourism industry na hindi pa naayos. That's one of the bigger arguments. Pangalawa ay na-invisibilize si smaller cook in comparison to the bigger cook. So, parang I think yung question talaga ay, yes, the Filipino cuisine can stand shoulder to shoulder with whoever.
Yeah.
But what kind of Filipino food is being shown that can stand shoulder to shoulder? Is this the Filipino food that we've pushed the boundary already, or the Filipino food that we eat because
every day?
Yun.
Okay, so before I answer that question, sagutin ko muna yung argument na sinasabi ng mga tao, di ba?
Yes.
Yung sinabi mo kanina is
Sino
that...
tao? Charing.
No, mga tao. Like people in social media.
Okay.
I guess this is a good platform to also answer those questions, no? Na sinasabi nila na, ano nga yung sinabi mo kanina?
Batawag dito, marami pang problema with tourism.
Number one, hindi kasi siya... Either or. Di ba? Pag may problema tayo with accommodations, may problema tayo with access, problema tayo with airports, does it necessarily mean that we should stop promoting our culture, that we should stop promoting the country? I mean, hindi siya kasi cause and effect eh. 'Di ba? Na parang wag na natin i-promote yung Filipino food, unahin muna natin ayusin yung airport. paano yung mga taong nagtatrabaho in the culinary industry that look for tourists to actually yung kanilang business magkaroon ng revenues, especially in the tourist destinations, diba? Na mga taong kailangan kumain sa restaurant nila. Kailangan ba nating pigilan na i-promote yung destination na yun dahil lang pangit yung airport natin? Hindi naman eh. It has to be parallel in progression. Dapat yung promotions natin is paramount to how much we want to fix our infrastructure. So, while we do have that like idea of infrastructure first, tourism development, we also need to be considerate na tourism is not a one-note industry. Madami tayong mga industries also that depend on tourism for their livelihood. Adjacent sila eh. Hindi lang ang mga miyembro ng tourism sector ay accommodations, hotels, hindi lang transportation, hindi lang airlines, hindi lang airports, but restaurants, healthcare facilities, these are all part of the tourism landscape. And they also need reprieve. They also need help from the government. So, yung argument na yan, I don't think that stands water, no? Na parang kailangan, i-resolve muna natin yung problema natin with rising costs of airfare.
Pwede siyang sabay.
Pwede siyang sabay.
And pwede siyang you highlight each other.
Yes. Na parang, when we solve this, it will highlight this. When we solve this, it will also highlight this. Diba? Parang, kailangan balance yung pag-approach natin. Kaya kami, hindi naman kami dapat tumigil na mag-promote or mag-develop ng tourism products natin like food. Yung second question is that
the steel versus the everyday Filipino food.
Oo. I think isa sa mga kagandahan ng Michelin Guide is that hindi siya specific to kailangan fine dining siya or kailangan it's yung
pero yun yung pressure sa
pressure.
Karamihan sa aming mga cooks parang marami sa amin tingin fine dining talaga yung
but hindi kasi ang Michelin Guide recognizes good food no matter what. Kung mahal ka man or mura ka, i-recognize ka basta masarap yung pagkain mo, basta maganda yung service mo, basta maganda yung quality ng ingredients na ginagamit mo. Case on point, magandang example na meron tayong mga karinderya in this country na na-recognize sila. Yung
Morning Sun.
Yung Morning Sun, 'di ba? Karinderya siya. Right now, if you go to Morning Sun, iba na yung approach ng mga taga Morning Sun, naka-apron na sila, naka-cap na sila because parang na-challenge din sila na i-elevate yung service nila dahil binigyan sila ng recognition ng isang body na nagre-recognize na masarap yung pagkain mo. But also, it also helps those that push for food na nasa hindi pang masa, yung mga pang sosyalan na pagkain, 'di ba? Kasi these are also very strong attractors of tourism. Nakikita natin na people get interested to eat Filipino food when they see that there are restaurants that actually serve quality ingredients, that serve good cuisine. I think there are about 70 restaurants in the guide that serve Filipino food right now out of 108. That also says a lot about how good Filipino food is. No? And pag tinanong ako kung anong strand ng Filipino food ang nagkakaroon ng recognition, all of them. If you look at the guide right now, and we're very proud of this, Mindanaoan cuisine is highlighted in the guide. Ilocano cuisine is highlighted in the guide.
Namamayagpag po ang Ilocano cuisine ngayon. Gusto ko lang sabihin.
Oo, namamayagpag siya. Yung cuisine ng Region 2, Cebuano cuisine is highlighted. Bacolod Inasal is highlighted. So, the diversity of Filipino food that's found in the guide is not limited to a specific destination in the country. All cuisines are actually candidates for greatness.
Sa amin naman sa trainings, nung lumabas yung guide, ang impact niya sa amin, kahit yung mga cooks namin na never talagang humawak pa ng mga premium ingredients, ang tingin nila possible. So yung expanding the possibility, to me, pinapatatag niya yung dignidad ng trabaho.
Correct.
Kasi parang kung kaya to ng isang karinderya na may masarap na pansit, baka kaya din to kung magluto kami ng Mickey or empanada.
Correct.
So,
anong masasabi ko lang din, Chef Jayson, no? Some people also criticize kung bakit Cebu and Manila lang right now and a few environ destinations yung naka-cover ng guide. Tandaan natin na just wanna say na this is just the inaugural year. Pag inaugural year, ang hina-highlight natin ng mga destinations are those that are in the gateways. Kasi mas madali silang i-access. So Cebu and Manila, alam natin na gateway destination sila. But as we go along and we expand the selection of the Michelin Guide in the Philippines, best be resolved na ang destination nyo ay mapupuntahan. Hindi siya magsistay lang sa Manila and environs in Cebu. E-expand siya. Lalaki siya at lalaki. Yung mga destination na sinabi, bakit hindi kami napuntahan sa Pampanga? Bakit hindi kami napuntahan sa Bacolod? Bakit hindi kami napuntahan sa ganito? Davao or sa Siargao? Hintayin natin. Kasi tayo mismo sa Philippines, kami sa DOT, naghintay kami. Naghintay kami ng 5 taon since we started negotiating for the Michelin Guide.
Okay.
Kasi si Michelin mismo nagsabi na hindi pa tayo handa. And I felt like 2024 was the best year for them to come in because it was the time na ang dami-dami nating mga chefs na handang-handa na they were up for the challenge to be part of the guide. Madaming restaurants na nag-offer ng variety. There was a shift. There was a cultural shift in how food was perceived in 20, especially after the pandemic. Nagbago ang habit ng mga tao. Dati, sa bahay lang kumakain. Ngayon, mahilig na tayong kumain sa labas. We spend for food more. Before.
At saka may bataw dito. Well, pansin ko rin on social. Gusto na natin ng may kwentong regional.
Correct.
Parang even if it leads to like debates on food, the point is people have strong opinions on Filipino food now in comparison to before.
And that conversation is always bound to happen. People will always have strong opinion about food dahil food is not just treated as nourishment. It's now treated as a conversation.
Yes.
As a cultural piece of conversation.
Yes.
And kami sa DOT, we're very, very happy that negative or positive yung conversation about our food. There is conversation. Kasi dati, wala tayong conversation about our food eh. But right
sisig
now,
lang.
parang, eto pa din, ang magandang argument dyan. Kasi we've also been seeing people na parang, Filipino food is not healthy, wala tayong gulay. Please, kailangan natin maintindihan na lahat ng mga na-highlight na pagkain sa social media, especially in the West, in terms of our food, are party food.
Party
Lechon,
food,
pancit.
party food.
We don't cook that every day in our households, di ba? Ano ba kinakain natin araw-araw? Laswa, di ba? Isdang pinirito,
Pakbet
galonggong, di ba? These are healthy food na hindi lang na-highlight dahil hindi sila yung marketable food for our tourists. But if you really look at Filipino food, it's very diverse. It's not a one-note cuisine. It's something that we should be very proud of.
Kung meron kang, say, top 3 Filipino dishes na tingin mo are right to be our ambassador dish.
Nako,
Ito na
tayo.
Baka may makalimutan ka region.
Ako personally, staple ko talaga sinigang.
Sinigang.
I think it's a really good comfort food. And the variety also of sinigang that we have. Sinigang sa miso, sinigang sa sampalok, sinigang sa guava, di ba? Madami siya.
Sabi ng isang influencer, KBL. Di siya lang.
Oh my God! Nakita ko nga yun. Medyo na-stress ako kasi KBL is from my hometown
Diba?
Iloilo.
Pag maasim, sinigang na agad, ate.
Nakakaloka ka, girl. But also, talk to us. We'll educate you. Tsare. Hindi, pero sinigang is one. I feel like the second is of course adobo. I think it's a dish that really shows what Filipino food is all about. Kasi the story of adobo is a story of resiliency as well, 'di ba? Na parang yung mga tao dati dahil wala tayong refrigerator, we cook it in vinegar and yun yung mga dinadala ng mga farmers natin. Iluluto sa umaga para hindi siya masira. They put it in vats, 'di ba? In containers, tapos dinadala nila sa palayan.
And in Southeast Asian cuisine, 'di ba? Pilipinas yung pinaka strong on vinegar. So,
yes, kasi tayo yung may fermentation actually. Tayo ang cuisine na may strength in fermentation. Yung third, hindi ko alam kung it's very representative of Filipino food.
Okay.
But I guess just because it creates a lot of buzz
Okay.
because of how
Dubai
it is-
chocolate ba to?
No,
Di chocolate.
because it's how it's widely acceptable.
Okay.
In different palettes.
Oh.
I think it's lumpia.
Okay. Mine would be, wow, nagbigay
sige,
din na ano.
I'd love to hear from you also.
Ako, feeling ko, the inasal.
Oh, inasal,
Oh.
yes.
Feeling ko ripe na siya to be introduced.
Oo.
Also, kasi parang, to me, siya talaga yung pinakamalinis na barbecue flavor.
Totoo, agree.
Na
And hindi tayo I think ang very particular with our kind of barbecue is hindi tayo mahilig sa rubs. So, naha-highlight yung flavor ng produce.
Yeah. Pangalawa ko, of course, pakbet.
Ay, of course.
Feel ko as a dish, I mean, it came from the north, pero halos lahat ng provinces meron ng, ba tawag dito, interpretations of it with shrimp, yung chicken, fish, mga ganun. Third ko probably would be the laing.
Oh, that's so good. Actually, those are good choices. I mean, what I said are existing dishes that are already highlighting Filipino food, but I feel like the dishes that you mentioned are the ones that are emerging na magandang i-push forward.
Yeah. Ang mga nababasa ko ngayon, mga tula itum.
Oo.
Diba? Sobrang daming regional varieties. And sobrang excited ko actually na parang minsan naisip ko, wait, I'm an Ilocano cook. But at the same time, ang daming Filipino dishes that I really want to reach also.
Yes.
Parang, can I cook outside my Ilocano lane? And yun yung batawag dito, nakikita ko naman na kaya.
And yun yung gusto ko din na i-highlight for chefs out there. Don't be afraid to experiment Filipino food.
Yeah.
As a Filipino, you should try cooking also different cuisines. I know that there was this argument last year na parang may interpretation sila ng sarili nilang batchoy. And then people were like so parang pressed with it. I feel like we should learn that Filipino food also came from evolution. The batchoy is actually coming from ramen, di ba? Or from mami.
Yeah.
Na naging batchoy siya dahil sa conditions within that region.
Yeah.
So, kailangan natin na isipin na ako personally, overrated sa kanyang authenticity.
I don't believe in authenticity.
I feel like...
But, I believe that there are traditional techniques, ingredients, and methods.
Yun din yung in-agree ko na parang who can say that a dish is actually authentically Filipino. 'Di ba? Kasi wala naman tayong history or every house
nila.
every household has a different approach.
Yes.
So being able to innovate our food is inherent within the Filipino DNA.
Yes. I mean,
yes.
We're a people of movement, we're a people of resilience. Bumabangon.
And that's also what's unique about us because our food is alive.
Yeah.
Again. Babalik tayo dun sa conversation na parang sinasabi, bakit hindi natin masastandardize yung food? Dahil ang Filipino food po ay buhay. Nag-e-evolve siya araw-araw. Nakakaluto ako ng adobo na walang toyo.
Yes. Kasama ng pag-evolve ng ating buhay
At kultura.
Ayan! Tanong mo kanina, 1 hour, ano mapag-uusapan natin? Tapos na po yung 1 hour natin with Doc Pau.
Nagchikahan lang po kami.
Nagchikahan. Isa na naman pong makabuluhan, masaya, at very soul-enriching conversation ang nakuha po natin for tonight's video. So, maraming salamat po sa batawag dito sa panonood at pagsama sa atin. Doc Pau, baka gusto mong pasalamatan ng ating mga...
So, sa mga ka-flavors natin, maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig at pagtutok sa show ni Chef Jayson. Chef Jayson has always been not just a partner in our food journey in the DOT, but has also been a good friend, personal friend of mine. And we believe in his advocacies for food, highlighting our heritage dishes, but also pushing the boundaries in flavors and technique. So please, if you have time, visit Trinings. Kain kayo doon. Sobrang sarap ng pagkain, promise.
Kakain po kami mamaya.
Yung puset, sobrang sarap. That's my favorite dish there. Tapos, also please support our efforts for Filipino culinary and gastronomy. We have, of course, the Michelin Guide in the Philippines. We have Slow Food. We have the Philippine Experience Program. So, please know that madami tayong ginagawa sa DOT para i-promote yung pagkaing Pilipino and malapit na po yung Filipino Food Month.
Yes,
Hopefully,
next month, yeah.
next month, hopefully, kayo din ay supportahan nyo po ang pag-push natin sa Filipino food. Not just as a form of sustenance, but as a form of cultural pride. So maraming salamat po sa pag-invite sa amin at Chef Jace.
Thank you, Doc Pao, for joining us today. Kita-kita po ulit tayo mga ka-flavors next Wednesday, 5:30 to 6:30 dito lang sa DWAN 12068. Thank you!